to move to Dennis DeLiddo, your coach, for 24 years at Fresno State. Again, brought in some big teams, big crowds, it was a real event, Fresno State Wrestling was, during his tenure. So I want you to tell me one of the best things Coach Dennis DeLiddo taught you about the sport of wrestling when you were under his tutelage.
Coach taught me, I think he actually fixed my fireman's carry. That was one of the things he taught me. But, Coach is he's a passionate wrestling person. He loves the sport. He's helped so many people. And so I'd say, he just increased my passion throughout my time with him.
Yaru Washington, Executive Director of Beat the Streets Los Angeles, with his piece about why Fresno State Wrestling, why we should keep Fresno State Wrestling. Yaru, your story, I'm sure you could go into deeper depths of what it is, what it was about, and how wrestling, again, saved your life and changed your life. But for now, we thank you for your time, and we appreciate the effort you as an alum are putting into keeping Fresno State Wrestling.
Thanks so much.
Now we're going to move over to Coach Dennis DeLiddo, the aforementioned Dean of Wrestling at Fresno State. Like Yaru, came from Fresno City, finished his career at Fresno State, ultimately became the head coach there. And Coach DeLiddo, when we talk about athletes like Yaru, you've had a lot of athletes with backgrounds like Yaru Washington. Not all of them were as successful on the mat as he was, and a lot of them ended up loving the sport. They end up coaching in the Valley. They end up becoming great leaders and mentors and sending their kids on to you to wrestle when you were coaching there at Fresno State. What are some of those examples of athletes that may not have lit up the headlines in the newspaper or on the internet, but were great citizens of Fresno State and great citizens of the sport of wrestling?
Well, one of the prides I had is all the athletes I had out coaching at one time. I think I had like 25 to 30 kids that were actually head coaches or assistant coaches in San Joaquin Valley or somewhere in the state of California. So I took a lot of pride in that. They left our place. A lot of them weren't starters. A lot of them weren't All-Americans. In fact, the All-Americans usually are a little bit more, they get a better job than the high school coaches sometimes. But no, I took a lot of pride in that, and took a lot of pride in a guy like Yaru. He's a self-made man. Look at what he's done. I mean, it's just unbelievable how these guys can. I had kids in those days that were Prop 48. Okay, I don't know if everybody knows what that is anymore. They couldn't qualify to get in Fresno State by certain standards, and they had to qualify to get in. They had to meet minimum standards, and they had to graduate to get 4 years of eligibility. I had numerous Prop 48 guys graduate. Marcio Botello, who's now a coach at Lemoore, head coach at Lemoore High School, was a Prop 48. Graduated, now he's teaching, coaching, and he was an All-American. I mean, how better? Can't get much better than that. And he came from Portugal, I think. You see he's from Paraguay. I don't know where he's from, but he's a good story right there, Great kid, supports Fresno State, wants us back real bad. He's had some kids at Fresno State since they brought him back. So he's a good example. I've got a guy like John O'Brien, who was earlier in his career. I think it was the early 80s. I get so many years mixed up when I was coaching so long. John O'Brien was just a guy that just loved wrestling and really feels like he should give back to wrestling. He's learned so much from it. I think he comes from a family of, I think he has 9 brothers or 8 brothers and a sister, and he lived in a real little house. But John has gone on and done very well for himself, and he's very, very generous supporting our program. And, example of him is how he just worked his way from nothing to something. And he, one of the few Bulldogs that gives back. That's been our biggest problem. A lot of our Bulldogs might be on the line right now, but they don't give back. Give back, Bulldogs. You got where you're at because of us, because of Fresno State. And we need everybody out there. If everybody in the country gave $5, we'd be in good shape.
Now, Coach, you talk about, those Bulldogs, but we look at the sport of wrestling, whether you're the All-American or whether you're the guy that's just, maybe next to last in the team run, or somebody that sat there and stuck it out as a workout partner for 4 and 5 years and earned that degree. Wrestling, we say, is a family. It's a brotherhood. It's a sisterhood. It's a fraternity. It's a group of like-minded individuals. We may not always get along, but we all have those same scars, the same battle scars, so to speak. We all have shared in the wins and losses of our teammates. What makes coaching wrestling at a place like Fresno State special for you as a coach and for your athletes that you coached?
Well, I think, the challenge of Fresno State is unlike the Oklahoma States, the Penn States, we try to get kids that had a rough background, had a rough time getting in school, but exceeded what they were supposed to do. We made All-Americans out of them, which is I'm very proud of. I think I had like 35 All-Americans, and that wasn't easy. But the tone in the room, it was a family atmosphere. But don't get me wrong, it was a dog eat dog in our room. And sometimes when we were in our other room, the room was about the size of a doghouse. It was so small, but we survived a lot of things. We survived a lot of things in that place. And one thing I never did, and probably Fresno State never even appreciates it, I never asked for any money from Fresno State. I always went out and raised the money. I never asked them for a cent above what they gave me on my budget. And I knew the whole time that we could be, on the chopping block. So I just really, good example, we bring Oklahoma State in, and we pay them $1,500 guarantee money in those days. You know who paid for that? My booster club. Did the school reimburse my booster club? No. I mean, these are little things, but I never complained about that because I was just happy to have them in our gym. The atmosphere, we had Penn State there, we had Lehigh, we've had some big time schools there. I think Coy wrestled our gym at Penn State. We had some good people there. Kevin Jackson was at LSU. Never had John Smith at our gym except kicking my butt as a coach. But other than that, we've had some good people in there. And it's just a family affair. And I used to call, this probably shouldn't even say this. I had two teams, my wrestling team and my gender team. Because in those days you had to have a cap. And unbeknownst to a lot of administrators, a lot of my guys that were on caps were still somewhere involved in the wrestling program. I never believed in cutting anybody ever. Never would, never will.
As we talk about the teams that you brought in, it seems that you cared about the community and showing the Buchanans, the Clovises, the Clovis West, the Clovis, everybody up and down the valley, the high school wrestlers, that here is the highest level of teams that we can bring in. You brought the best wrestling to the community. How important was it for you to showcase Fresno State wrestling to the city of Fresno and the Valley community?
Oh, I thought it was really important. There for a while, we were wrestling in Oklahoma and Oklahoma State every other year. We'd go to Oklahoma, and then they'd come to us, and that was huge. And I think we had Cornell out there one year, Penn State, Northwestern. We had the best of the best. And, wrestling coaches. I wish everybody was a wrestling coach because they all help each other. And, they came out to help the program. They knew, the West Coast wasn't real, what you call solid. Even in those days, it was shaky, But it was just, it's wrestling coaches are a different breed. We all help each other. It's just a family affair. And your wrestlers grow up that way, and that's the way they end up as a family. And shoot, I got guys on my team. I hate to even say this, say I wrestled for you in 19, so and I don't even remember who they were, but because a lot of the guys didn't start and they say I wrestled that year, and I wouldn't remember them. But the guys you don't remember are the guys that help you the most. The guys you remember seem like they don't help you as much, but that's my own personal opinion about my superstars.
As a longtime resident there and a longtime person in the sport of wrestling, if you had one statement to say about the value that wrestling brings to the Fresno community, what would it be?
Well, wrestling is the biggest learning tool you could have in life. Get out there on the mat, in front of people. Education-wise, it helped me get through school. I wouldn't have got through school if it wasn't for wrestling. I bet you a lot of guys on this call wouldn't have got through school without wrestling, being eligible and getting your degree. It's a tool. I'll give you an example. My nephew, Harold Zinkin, he was 95 pounds as a senior in high school. I didn't think he would get big enough to be a wrestler in college. Well, he went on and was an All-American for me, and he's done very well financially, and he owes it all, he says, to wrestling. He says, everything I learned on the mat, off the mat, right now to this day is because of wrestling. And you talk to anybody, and that's the truth of life. Wrestling is the greatest learning tool there is. I mean, it's life. Wrestling is all about life. How you handle struggles, how you overcome them, how you do with them. And Yaru, those stories, Barcio Botel, I got 100 guys stories like that just achieved way beyond their means because they were part of the family. And whether they're superstars or just workout partners, it was a great, Fresno State had a great atmosphere, I think, while I was there.